Hi, I'm James Horner, and I'm talking about the ethics of proprietary software. So I'll start with the definition. What is proprietary software? Proprietary software is just software that's not considered free software. So what is free software? According to GNU.org, free software is software that meets these four requirements. You need to be able to run the program. You need to be able to view the original source code of the program and change it. You need to be allowed to distribute exact copies of the software to other people, and you need to be able to distribute modified versions of the software to other people. So if some software doesn't meet these four requirements, then it's generally considered proprietary software. Most of the software that you use today is in fact proprietary software. Most popular software has hidden source code. You cannot view the original source code it was written in, and it's copyright by a company. So the copyright will probably say you cannot just distribute the software to other people. You may have to pay for it, or it may be a subscription service. You can't just give it to someone else without the company knowing about it. There's a lot of misconceptions about free software. Free software does not mean free monetarily. Free software means free as in freedom. You could have free software that costs money. As long as the software meets those four requirements in the previous slide, it's considered free software, according to this definition. Proprietary software could have source code that you can view. Some people think proprietary software means hidden source code. Not necessarily. A lot of proprietary software does have source code that you can view on the internet, but it has a license that says that you cannot modify the software or that you cannot distribute copies of it without paying for it, for example. Or maybe the license says you're not allowed to compile and build the software yourself. You're supposed to go through official channels such as paying for it or subscribing to it. So those are just a few misconceptions. So let's talk about the history of free software. Back in the 1970s, most software was pretty much considered free back then. There weren't a lot of companies using licenses or copyright. People generally just shared their software freely with other people and didn't charge any money for it. Beginning in the 1980s, a lot of companies really started to put licenses on their software and charge money and keep the source code secretive. And so in 1983, Richard Stallman really started the free software movement. And then in 1985, Richard Stallman started the Free Software Foundation. This is the largest foundation that promotes free software in the world. Their goal was to create an operating system made entirely of free software, so someone with a personal computer could basically do everything they could want to do on a computer using only free software. And then in 1991, the Linux kernel was created, which is also free software, and that kind of allowed that to happen. And now the Linux operating system exists today and is used very often on servers around the world, and you can have an entire operating system of free software. So they were able to achieve that goal. So what are the free software values? At least according to the Free Software Foundation, they believe that proprietary software is morally wrong and that it doesn't respect the user's privacy or freedom. And they really believe that people should promote free software, donate to free software, and avoid associating themselves with proprietary software. And so here's just some examples. Some free software that you may have heard of is Linux, the Firefox browser, Git, Blender for 3D, art, VS Code, and then some examples of proprietary software would be like Windows, Mac OS, Google Chrome, Android phones, everything on there. There's many examples in both categories. I'm just giving a few right here. So what are the moral issues associated with proprietary software? Here's a quote from the founder of the Free Software Foundation, Richard Stallman. He said, "Proprietary software, also called non-free software, means software that doesn't respect users' freedom and community. A proprietary program puts its developer or owner in a position of power over its users. This power is in itself an injustice." So as you can see from this quote, they not only promote free software, they believe that proprietary software is in and of itself morally wrong and that people should avoid it. Some of the main points that they give for avoiding proprietary software, one of the biggest ones is a lack of privacy. Since the software is proprietary, it will often collect users' data without telling them about it. And this is very common today. There could be security concerns. There's a lack of transparency about what the software is actually doing on your computer. There's a lack of freedom to be able to, say, modify the software to do something that you want or give the software to other people that you know. And there's just a lot of limitations associated with the intellectual property rights associated with the software. So there are a lot of great benefits of free software over proprietary software, and these are sort of the main issues that they raise: a lack of privacy, lack of security, real concerns that people have when it comes to proprietary software. So, moving on to my position, I actually disagree with the stance that proprietary software as a whole is morally wrong or an injustice, as the founder stated. Um, I do, I can agree that some individual companies can do morally wrong things with proprietary software. If a company were to, say, collect data about you without telling you about that, I'd believe that's morally wrong. But I would not say that proprietary software as a whole is morally wrong. I think that people have the right to own what they created. So if you were to write software yourself, I think you have the right to distribute it however you want. You could want to prevent other people from, say, copying your work. If you have a company that creates a lot of software and you've spent a lot of money on that, it would make sense to prevent other people from just copying everything that you did. And if you prevent that, it's no longer considered free software. Uh, you should be able to distribute software that you wrote how you want to and make money from the software that you made. Most software today makes money through subscriptions or paying for it up front, and that the free market is a great way to generate money for software companies, and it employs a lot of people in the marketplace. So, one objection that the Free Software Foundation would make with my previous statement is that they would say you can still make money with free software. So, if everyone were to use free software, that doesn't mean that you can't have software companies and that people can't have jobs. There's still plenty of ways to make money. And here's a few of the ways that you still can make money with free software. For one, you can charge people money to use the software, either through a subscription or through an upfront payment. You can still charge money. Another approach that's very common today is support services. Basically, you make the software free, but you charge a subscription service for tech support for that software. Say it's particularly complicated to use. Often companies will pay for tech support uh, to have people help out when they have problems with the software. Often, large companies will use free software, and those companies will give you money to use that software. You can also just put ads in the software, or you could have a method of donations where people could donate if they like what you're doing with the software. So, my response to that objection is, it is true. I do agree that you can make money with free software, but that free software is not even close to being as marketable as proprietary software is. A huge way that proprietary software can make money is by doing things such as charging a subscription, charging an upfront cost, or by having ads in the software. And by making the software free, it effectively removes your ability to make money through those avenues. Because if the software meets the free software requirements, then people could simply redistribute copies of the software and modify those copies. They could make new versions of the software where they remove the ads, where they remove the cost, the upfront cost, or the subscription cost. They could basically take all the pricing out of it and distribute those copies on their own. So, while you can still technically make money with free software, it's very, very limited. And when you look at the marketplace today, almost all big software companies, none of them are making free software. They're all making proprietary software just because it's more practical. It's hard to make money without making the software proprietary. Another objection they would make against my point is that proprietary software doesn't respect the user's freedom. They would say that the companies value profit over the user and that there's a total lack of privacy, that the companies are stealing your data, spying on you, having the software do things that you didn't agree for it to do. My response to this is I think that users have the freedom to choose to use proprietary software. If we're talking about freedom, the way I see it, people should have the freedom to use what they want. And if they want to use proprietary software, that's their choice, and there's nothing inherently wrong about that. You have a person using software that's proprietary and a company selling it to them, and it's a mutual agreement there. I will concede that some companies can do things that are morally wrong. If a company were, say, collecting your data without telling you about it in advance, that is morally wrong. But that's not all companies, and that doesn't apply to all proprietary software. That's just one example of a company doing something wrong. But it doesn't mean that all proprietary software is wrong. And it is true that generally companies value profit before the user experience. Companies value profit first and foremost. That's why they're companies. But the companies exist within a free market where companies compete against other companies. The free market of software companies is really what drove a lot of software development through the years. You look at the major software that we use today: Google, Microsoft, Apple. This is all proprietary software. And so, sure, just because companies may prioritize profit, the way that they get profit is by making great products. So, I just think that that's not in and of itself a problem. So overall, I believe that free software is a good thing. I do very much like free software, but just because free software is good, it doesn't necessarily mean that proprietary software is bad or morally wrong to use. So overall, I think that free software and proprietary software can both live together. If you want to donate to free software, that's a good thing to do. It's good to use free software, especially if you value your privacy. But that proprietary software can also be a good thing. It can employ people, it can make products that otherwise wouldn't have existed without the free market driving that technology further. So, thank you for listening and have a good day.